Forever Chemicals, How PFAS Pollutes Our Blood and Lives. History. Chapter 2. PFAS emerged in the 1930s when scientists discovered the unique properties of fluorine-carbon bonds. Roy Plunkett accidentally created polytetrafluoroethylene, or PTFE, while working at DuPont in 1938, leading to Teflon, a non-stick coating with numerous applications. One of the earliest significant uses of PFAS was in the Manhattan Project during World War II, where PTFE played an essential role in the development of the atomic bomb. It was used in uranium enrichment, serving in gaskets and valves to contain corrosive gases, and also functioned as a fire suppressant, coolant, and lubricant in nuclear processes. In my book, Nuclear Extinction Event is Killing Our Families, I discuss how the nuclear industry, much like the PFAS industry, is having a devastating impact on our planet and its inhabitants. In 1945, DuPont trademarked PTFE as Teflon, marking the beginning of commercial PFAS production. 3M acquired the Simons process that same year, enabling large-scale fluorochemical manufacturing. The 1950s saw a rapid expansion of PFAS use in consumer products. As we explore in later chapters, these industrial plants contaminated surrounding areas and polluted water sources. In 1953, 3M introduced Scotchgard, which contains perfluorobutane sulfonic acid, or PFOS. PFAS production increased throughout the 1960s and 70s. Little did the public know these treated carpets would contaminate the bloodstreams of the occupants. 3M and the U.S. Navy developed aqueous film-forming foam, or AFFF, containing PFOS and PFOA. Military sites, airports, and firefighting centers adopted AFFF worldwide and sprayed it on runways and in forests. Little did they know the runoff would contaminate wells, aquifers, and ecosystems. PFAS found applications in the aerospace, automotive, construction, and electronics industries. That new car smell was not a breath of fresh air, and the leather or fabric coatings released particles that entered our bodies. Consumer products containing PFAS, such as non-stick cookware and water-repellent clothing, gained widespread popularity. However, these convenient items came with hidden risks. When scratched by cooking utensils, non-stick pans could release PFAS particles into our meals. Similarly, washing our treated clothing sent PFAS-contaminated water to treatment plants, ill-equipped to remove these persistent chemicals. In 1969, Gore-Tex, another PFAS-containing product, was invented, further expanding the use of PFAS in consumer goods. This innovation led to a proliferation of PFAS-treated products, including waterproof jackets and outdoor gear, stain-resistant carpets and upholstery, grease-resistant food packaging, firefighting foam, and certain cosmetics and personal care products. The widespread adoption of these products exposed consumers to harmful chemicals, highlighting the need for greater awareness and regulation of PFAS in everyday items. Early signs of PFAS toxicity emerged in the 1970s and 80s. 3M's internal research linked PFOA and PFOS to liver damage. In 1981, a study by 3M found PFAS in the blood of its workers, raising concerns about occupational exposure. Aware of potential risks, some manufacturers took precautionary measures by relocating women of childbearing age to other parts of their factories. This decision was driven by knowledge of PFAS-related issues such as low birth weights, complications with breastfeeding, and fetal development problems, topics we will explore in greater detail in later chapters. Despite these alarming findings, PFAS production continued to grow. Companies expanded product lines and explored new applications driven by the chemical's persistence and effectiveness. PFAS became integral to many industrial processes and consumer goods, leading to widespread adoption across various sectors. This expansion occurred as evidence of potential health risks mounted, highlighting the tension between industrial progress and public health concerns. Environmental contamination from PFAS manufacturing and use became evident in the 1980s and 90s. Researchers detected PFAS in wildlife and human blood samples, revealing the chemical's widespread presence and bioaccumulation potential. Studies began to uncover health risks associated with PFAS exposure. While industry knowledge of PFAS hazards grew, public awareness remained limited. Today, as you read this book, only about 30% of the population has heard of forever chemicals beyond the well-publicized issues with Teflon. Many people are unaware these substances are ubiquitous and present in numerous products beyond their frying pans. Regulatory agencies began investigating PFAS impacts in the early 2000s, marking a regulation and public awareness shift. In 2000, 3M announced a voluntary phase-out of PFOA and PFOS production due to growing health concerns. In 2006, the EPA launched the PFOA Stewardship Program, aiming to reduce emissions and product content of PFOA and related chemicals by 95% by 2010 and eliminate them by 2015. Companies adopted improved manufacturing processes and filtration systems to meet these goals. However, many alternative chemicals introduced were later found to be as harmful. As evidence of PFAS health risks grew, regulators increased oversight. In 2009, the EPA issued provisional health advisories for PFOA and PFOS in drinking water. By 2016, these were updated to lifetime health advisories set at 70 parts per trillion. In 2020, the EPA strengthened regulations requiring notice and review before phased-out long-chain PFAS could be reintroduced. These actions reflected mounting concerns about the widespread contamination and potential health impacts of PFAS exposure. The Stockholm Convention on Persistent Organic Pollutants took significant international action against PFAS. In 2009, it added PFOS, its salts, and perfluorooctane sulfonyl fluoride, PFOSF, to Annex B, restricting their production and use globally. The treaty requires countries to reduce or eliminate the release of listed pollutants, promote best practices to prevent contamination, and manage waste containing these chemicals. This global ban on PFOS encouraged stricter regulations worldwide and highlighted the urgent need for international cooperation in addressing persistent pollutants like PFAS. As we move forward in history, a significant milestone occurred in 2016 when the EPA established a lifetime health advisory for PFOA and PFOS in drinking water at 70 parts per trillion. To put this in perspective, 70 parts per trillion is equivalent to about 1 drop of water in 20 Olympic-sized swimming pools, demonstrating the potency of these chemicals. This minuscule amount shows the severe toxicity of PFAS. In 2019, the EPA released the PFAS Action Plan, outlining a comprehensive approach to addressing contamination. This plan included steps to evaluate the need for a maximum contaminant level for PFOA and PFOS, consider designating PFAS as hazardous substances, and develop groundwater cleanup recommendations. Congress passed legislation requiring PFAS monitoring and cleanup at military sites through the National Defense Authorization Act. This legislation mandated the Department of Defense to phase out the use of PFAS containing firefighting foam, provide blood testing for military firefighters, and enter into cooperative agreements with communities for testing, monitoring, and cleanup of PFAS contamination. Lawsuits against PFAS manufacturers and users have proliferated, seeking compensation for environmental and health impacts, which we will explore in more detail later. Many states are implementing their PFAS regulations, which are often more stringent than federal guidelines. These state-level actions reflect growing public concern and the need for more comprehensive protection against PFAS contamination. Now that we have a brief overview of history, let's examine the key players in the PFAS saga. Please subscribe, please share, and hit the bell for future videos. This is part 2 of a series. The book links are below. Thank you for watching.